The lights of the massive auditorium glow like distant stars, casting a soft sheen across the polished stage. Thousands of spectators fill the arena, their whispers creating a low, buzzing hum of anticipation. Camera cranes sweep slowly overhead, catching every nervous breath and hopeful smile of the contestants waiting in the wings. From stage left, a young man steps into the spotlight, Arvin Santos, a 23-year-old Filipino singer whose name is not yet known beyond his hometown. He's dressed simply, a plain button-up shirt, dark jeans, and shoes that have clearly traveled many roads. Slung over his shoulder is a well-loved acoustic guitar, its wood faded from years of playing beside windows, in barangay plazas, and at family gatherings lit only by candles and laughter. Arvin pauses at center stage, taking in the vastness before him. The judges sit behind their long, illuminated desk, each with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The audience, accustomed to flashy acts and confident entrances, studies him in silence. Though his expression is calm, the slight tightening of his jaw reveals he understands the weight of this moment. The host approaches with a microphone, asking his name, where he's from, and what brought him there. Arvin speaks humbly, his accent warm and unmistakably Filipino. When asked about his musical inspiration, he smiles as though recalling a precious memory. He speaks of Freddie Aguilar, describing him not just as a legend but as a voice of the Filipino soul. He explains that his dream is not fame, but to carry the spirit of Filipino music onto the global stage, so that people around the world might feel its stories, struggles, and hope. His words don't boast, they resonate. Even before he sings, something shifts in the room. The quiet confidence he carries hints that the worn guitar on his back might have a history worth hearing. The stagehands dim the lights as Arvin gently removes his guitar from his shoulder and cradles it with practiced familiarity. A hush settles over the crowd, the kind that only appears when countless eyes focus on a single soul. One of the judges leans forward, studying the young man as though trying to predict his first note. Arvin adjusts the strap, his fingers brushing lightly over the strings. The microphone before him gleams, tall and imposing, but he doesn't flinch. He closes his eyes for a moment, not to escape the moment, but to embrace it. In that breath of silence, the audience sees not fear but intention, as though he's silently speaking to every voice that ever doubted or believed in him. Then, a single strum. The sound is warm, raw, and honest, no backing track, no band, no theatrical effects. His guitar rings with the timbre of wood aged by memories and calloused fingertips. The melody he begins to play is unfamiliar to the international crowd, but it carries a rhythm reminiscent of folk songs sung beside rivers and under mango trees. When Arvin's voice enters, it isn't loud, it's soulful. There's a richness to it, a grounded tone that feels like a story rather than a performance. His phrasing is delicate but assured, shaped by years of singing not for applause, but for connection. A few heads in the audience tilt, eyebrows rising in surprise. The murmurs that once filled the arena are now replaced by an attentive silence. Up at the judges' table, Simon Cowell has stopped looking at his notes. His usual guarded expression softens as he studies the young man on stage, intrigued by the authenticity pouring from every word. The other judges exchange glances, sensing something rare unfolding, not a contestant chasing fame, but an artist revealing truth through song. The atmosphere shifts. Arvin isn't just performing anymore, he's beginning to awaken the room. As Arvin's song progresses, the arena seems to shrink around him. The spotlight bathes him in a soft glow, but the rest of the world fades beyond the edge of the stage. With every verse, his voice grows steadier, carrying emotion layered with pride, sorrow, and hope. The melody rises gently, then swells with unexpected strength, sounding both modern and deeply traditional, like a story carried across generations. By the time he reaches the bridge, the audience has forgotten to breathe. The song's lyrics, though partly in Filipino, cut through language barriers with pure feeling. Camera operators zoom in on faces in the crowd, some with parted lips, some with wide eyes, a few with hands pressed unconsciously to their chest. The emotional shift is unmistakable, the crowd isn't merely listening anymore, they're feeling. Then comes the final chorus. Arvin's voice lifts, not through power alone, but through sincerity. His last note hangs in the air like a prayer released into the sky. For a heartbeat, the arena falls into a silence so deep it feels sacred. And then it breaks. The audience rises to its feet almost in unison, as though compelled by instinct rather than thought. Applause crashes like a wave across the hall, erupting into cheers and whistles. Some spectators cup their hands around their mouths, calling his name even though they only just learned it. Others wipe at their eyes, surprised at their own emotion. Arvin stands frozen, his guitar still in his hands, staring in disbelief at the sea of people rising for him. A trembling smile touches his lips, and his shoulders shake slightly with relief and gratitude. He bows his head once, softly, humbled by the magnitude of the response. On the judges' panel, one of them whispers, "This doesn't happen often." Another simply stares, stunned. The ovation continues, not polite, but thunderous, heartfelt, and earned. The applause slowly begins to settle, but the energy in the room remains electric. Arvin lowers his guitar to his side, still unsure where to rest his eyes. He glances briefly at the judges' table, expecting the usual mix of politeness and critique. But instead finds a panel visibly moved. One judge, known for her warmth, presses a hand to her chest as she smiles at him with watery eyes. Another shakes his head in disbelief, as though trying to process what just unfolded. The cameras shift to capture every reaction, from stunned expressions to admiring nods. At the center of it all, Simon Cowell sits forward in his chair, elbows resting on the desk, hands folded in front of his lips. His gaze is fixed on Arvin, not casually curious, but intensely focused. The crowd quiets again, sensing something is about to be said that will echo beyond the walls of the arena. Simon clears his throat, but his demeanor is different, not sarcastic, not skeptical, but sincere. His voice carries through the speakers with measured clarity. "I've heard thousands of singers," he says slowly, "and only a handful have made me forget I was judging a competition. Tonight, you did that." The audience leans in. "I know who Freddie Aguilar is," Simon continues, his tone respectful. "He's a legend, one of the great voices to come from the Philippines." He pauses, holding the silence just long enough to let the weight of his words gather. "But what I just heard," he exhales, almost incredulous. "I think you may be even greater. You are the new legend of the Philippines." Gasps ripple through the audience, followed by cheers that rise like a tidal wave. Some spectators lift banners and flags that have been waiting quietly in their laps. Arvin's eyes widen, and his breath catches as if the words landed directly in his chest. At that moment, he isn't just a contestant. He's a name destined to be remembered. Backstage, the roar of the crowd still echoes like an aftershock. Arvin is guided off stage by a crew member, but his steps feel weightless, as though he's floating somewhere between disbelief and gratitude. His hands, still gently gripping his guitar, tremble with adrenaline and emotion. A producer rushes toward him, congratulating him breathlessly while staff scramble to replay the clip for live broadcasts around the world. Within minutes, the performance begins circulating online. The title trends across platforms. Filipino singer leaves judges speechless. Simon Cowell declares new legend, better than Freddie Aguilar. Clips of Simon's remark, now immortalized, spread like wildfire, reaching phones, laptops, and televisions around the globe. In the Philippines, the reaction is immediate and overwhelming. In small towns, sari-sari stores turn up the volume on their radios and televisions. Families gathered for dinner pause mid-bite, recognizing Arvin's face and voice. Jeepney drivers watch replays on their phones during stoplights. Elderly musicians nod with knowing pride, while younger artists flood social media with messages of support. News anchors discuss his story, a humble musician raised on folk ballads, now carrying the banner of his culture to an international stage. The Filipino people. At home, Arvin's mother weeps quietly while clutching the screen showing her son. Neighbors gather outside their gate, celebrating as though a local hero has won a championship. In schools, teachers replay the performance for students, reminding them that dreams know no borders. Back at the arena, Arvin sits alone for a moment, the noise fading into a distant hum. He whispers a small thank you, to his family, to his idols, to his country, and to the guitar that carried his voice across the world. He has not won the competition yet, but something greater has happened. He has given his people a moment of shared pride, and become a symbol of what their music can mean to the world.